Well, more bad news as well for the high street, it seems, because of coronavirus. Sainsburys has announced it's to cut more than 3,500 jobs. It's suggested a large number of roles will go from Argos, which is owned by Sainsburys. Other big names, John Lewis and the Lloyds Banking Group, have both announced major cuts this week again because of the pandemic. Well, Kate Hardcastle is a retail expert. Depressing numbers, these, Kate. And, you know, when we talk about the supermarkets, it's thought that they were the winners in this pandemic. Why are Sainsbury's cutting such big numbers?
Job losses are never a good news day at all, and behind every job loss there are families that will be dependent on that income. Sainsbury's is a bit of an unusual one. Sainsbury's actually took on an extra 25,000 staff in July, some of them temporary, whilst they started to deal with a huge 13-fold uplift in their online delivery services. The cost has been significant, the cost of COVID, creating safe environments in stores, putting perspex screens in, dealing with the increase of the intensity of actually managing people and staff through the stores has been challenging for all the grocery stores. But what we're hearing is that businesses are transforming radically because of this change. And I think that's why we've seen them take these job cuts from Argos, particularly, who have counters within stores, and also their fresh meat and fish counters, where they're obviously going to change the way the stores are laid out.
Yeah, when you add up all those costs, because they have to adapt, it gets expensive, doesn't it? I mean, just looking at Tesco, though, Kate, on the other hand, they've said they're hiring 11,000 jobs. I think that was 2 weeks ago. They're not in the same position. They're not having to lose staff right now.
Not right now, but it's going to be this adjustment all the way through. Like I said, Sainsbury's took a huge amount on earlier in the year. Tesco are reevaluating their business. We're going to hear a lot more of these news stories as these businesses start to reformat, mould themselves into what the future looks like. We're hitting a second lockdown in England, as you mentioned today. That's going to see stores close again, but click and collect services open. So it's a bit different with the supermarkets than it is, for instance, a brand like John Lewis, who've announced their job losses this week. John Lewis are going through huge radical reform. They've had very challenging times, and like Marks and Spencer's, they've had very negative figures. The grocery stores are still making money. It's just that it's costing a lot more money to run the business, and they've got to look at ways to make the business effective. That doesn't mean that we don't understand that the job losses mean concern and hurt for the families involved. But with the grocery stores, I think there's quite a positive future there once they've worked out how to run the business financially viably.
Yeah, and I know that they've said they will try and do everything possible to find alternative roles for colleagues, but it's not easy out there, is it, at the moment? I mean, there aren't many jobs and there's a lot of people that need them.
Absolutely. It's certainly been in retail and hospitality, and as horrible as it's been a huge shift. And a lot of the smaller businesses going through lockdowns and going through periods of, it's not just lockdowns, it's a significantly reduced footfall when they reopen. That's a counterbalance to try and deal with. Some of them just don't have the cash flow to see that through. So, you know, our concerns have to be with businesses big and small, but the people involved. And what we have to hope is that this huge shift in online, this huge shift in the fact that we are buying more through the internet and the click and collect services might see some of the remedy where businesses are able to employ people in those areas.
Kate, thank you very much for talking us through all of that. Kate Hardcastle there, a retail expert.